Buckle up, explorers. Ancient Egypt's got some secrets, and we're about to unwrap one of them. You know all about the majestic pyramids, powerful pharaohs, and mysterious mummies. But what if I told you there's a surprising star from Greek mythology lurking in the Egyptian desert? A jaw-dropping archaeological find on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula has unearthed a long-lost temple dedicated to none other than Zeus, king of the sky. How did this god of Olympus end up in the land of the Nile? Let's dive into the fascinating story and find out. I'm your host, and welcome back to Crazy Stuff. Buckle up, explorers. Today we're unraveling a fascinating tale from ancient Egypt's twilight years. Imagine stumbling upon a Greek temple dedicated to Zeus in the heart of an Egyptian city. It sounds like a thrilling mystery, right? Let's set our curiosity loose and embark on this adventure together. The lost temple of Zeus was unearthed in Pelusium, a city that once hugged the Nile Delta's east coast. But why would we find Greek architecture in Egypt? It all began when Egypt's legendary 3,000-year reign started to wane, paving the way for an unexpected takeover by Macedonian Greeks. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, bringing his mighty empire's influence. At that time, the Egyptians were under the grip of the Persians, who weren't exactly fans of anything Egyptian. Talk about a clash of cultures. Fasten your seatbelts, thrill seekers. Let's dive into a gripping tale that'll transport us back to ancient Egypt's transition period. Picture this: the once mighty Egyptian empire starts to weaken, paving the way for an unexpected power shift. The year is 332 BC when Alexander the Great storms in with his legendary Macedonian Greeks, bringing along a breath of fresh air, tolerance and admiration for local deities. He even builds a temple to honor the revered goddess Isis, showing he's all about embracing Egyptian culture. But after 9 years, Alexander departs this world, leaving behind a power vacuum that sparks a battle for control. It's 305 BC when Ptolemy Isoter seizes the opportunity and proclaims himself pharaoh, ushering in the Ptolemaic kingdom, an era of Greek influence that lasts nearly 3 centuries, until its dramatic conclusion with Cleopatra's tragic demise at the hands of Rome's first emperor, Augustus Caesar. This remarkable period sees Greek ideas and mythology intertwining with Egyptian traditions, creating a captivating cultural tapestry that we're about to unravel. Let's take a closer look at what made the Ptolemaic kingdom so unique, and also pretty fascinatingly weird. Think about it, this Greek dynasty in Egypt wanted to maintain their heritage big time. To do that, they came up with an unconventional approach, marrying brothers and sisters on repeat. Yep, you heard that right, 10 out of the 15 marriages during their reign were between family members. This practice was part of a larger effort to preserve their Greek identity. But here's the thing, they took it so seriously that most Ptolemaic rulers never even bothered learning Egyptian, the local language. That is until Cleopatra came along. She was the first and only Ptolemaic ruler who decided to master the language of the land. Talk about making a bold move towards cultural integration, right? Here's how it all began. Way before Cleopatra's legendary reign, imagine the city of Pelusium as the epicenter of a clash of civilizations in ancient times. It was during this time that Egypt faced an invasion from none other than the Achaemenid Empire, also known as the First Persian Empire, led by King Cambyses back in 525 BC. At this point, Pharaoh Psamtik III had just taken the throne after his dad Su's 44-year reign came to a close. This was a turning point for Egypt, and Pelusium played a critical role in it, marking the start of a new era under foreign control. Pharaoh Psamtik III was barely getting comfortable on his throne when the mighty Persian army, led by King Cambyses Su, rolled across the scorching Sinai desert towards Pelusium, the eastern gateway to Egypt's empire. The omens weren't good. Psamtik III had just ascended the throne after a long reign of Pharaoh Amsis II, and little was known about him, making him an inexperienced leader. To make matters worse for Psamtik III, his Greek allies turned against him when he needed them most. Specifically, Polycrates of Samos, a self-proclaimed enlightened ruler who commanded a robust fleet in the Greek islands, failed to deliver the support that Psamtik III had been counting on as Cambyses II and the Persians closed in on Egypt. In a shocking betrayal that would make even Shakespeare blush, Pharaoh Psamtik III thought he'd found a loyal ally in Polycrates of Samos and Phanes of Halicarnassus, two influential Greeks who were supposed to be fighting alongside him against the Persians. But instead of backing Psamtik III when he needed them most, both defected to King Cambyses' army. As if this betrayal wasn't enough, Phanes' treachery took a chilling turn. Psamtik III allegedly captured his sons, lined them up before 2 bowls filled with their own blood mixed with wine. With this act of gruesome revenge, he and his men drank the enemy's elixir in a twisted attempt to gain an edge over Cambyses' forces before charging into battle. But would drinking the blood of his enemies be enough to turn the tide at Pelusium? The answer was a resounding no, as Samtik-Athuri faced a crushing defeat at the hands of the Persians. In a move straight out of the Persian playbook, it's believed that Cambyses Saxena pulled off one of history's sneakiest psychological warfare tactics by exploiting Egypt's deep affection for cats, those sacred furry gods. Before storming Pelusium, the Persians allegedly carried an army of cats to the front lines, and as expected, the Egyptians were hesitant to open fire on these adorable divine creatures, with their archers held back due to fear of incurring the wrath of their feline deities. The Persians seized the opportunity to march right into Pelusium, marking a turning point that would ultimately lead to the fall of Egypt. The great Egyptian empire was now teetering on the brink of collapse, and Samtik-Basern's defeat at Pelusium sealed his own fate as he took his own life in the end. Imagine a city swallowed by time and sand. That's what happened to Pelusium, a metropolis with an epic history now buried deep in Egypt's heartland. The recent discovery of a Zeus temple there is a thrilling find, but it's astonishingly late considering the ancient significance of this place. One major reason for this delay lies in the tragic fate that befell Pelusium as its importance began to wane by the 1st century BC. The city slowly succumbed to the relentless onslaught of silt from the Nile River, silting up its once thriving port and turning it into an inhospitable landscape. This gradual transformation effectively hid Pelusium from the prying eyes of archaeologists for centuries, leaving behind only remnants of a glorious past waiting to be rediscovered. Fast forward a few centuries and you'd find the coastline dramatically shifted, the Nile's tributaries altering their course in the process, leaving Pelusium high and dry, an economic ghost town by around 1100 AD. It was only a matter of time before the once thriving metropolis was abandoned altogether, its structures swallowed by the relentless march of silt and sand. It wasn't until 1910 that French archaeologist Jean Slaudat stumbled upon some Greek inscriptions on an ancient stone beam. His hunch was there might be a hidden temple beneath, but it remained buried for over a century after his initial discovery. In April, groundbreaking news from the archaeological scene: excavations unearthed majestic pillars of pink granite covered in Greek inscriptions that told us this ancient site was none other than a temple dedicated to Zeus. But here's the twist. It's not your average Zeus temple, it's the temple of Zeus Cassios. You might be familiar with Zeus himself, but what about his connection to Mount Cassios? Located on today's border between Syria and Turkey, this mountain holds spiritual significance that dates back over 5,000 years to around 3000 BC, roughly the same time Egypt was rising as a powerful civilization. The blend of Zeus and Cassios into one temple reflects the cultural exchange and blending of mythologies happening around Pelusium during that era. It's like we're witnessing history's first fusion playlist. Different beliefs coming together to create something entirely new. In Greek mythology, Mount Cassios was where Zeus faced off against an epic foe named Typhon, a monstrous creature as ferocious as it sounds, 100 snake heads spewing fire and aiming for the stars. Hesiod described Typhon as outrageous and lawless. But don't worry, our lightning-wielding hero, Zeus, had the upper hand with his mighty thunderbolts that sealed Typhon's fate, burying him under Mount Etna in Italy. Now, let's dive into the fascinating history of Mount Cassios before its mythological fame in Greek stories. It turns out that Typhon, the fearsome monster we just met, wasn't the first to claim this powerful name. It was actually an ancient site tied to a much older deity Baal, the storm god from Canaanite and Phoenician cultures. Before being known as Cassios, this mountain was called Mount Zephon, reflecting its deep connection to the revered figure of Baal. This transition from Mount Zephon to Cassios signals the blending of traditions that was taking place in the region around Pelusium during those times. The people here were absorbing elements from various mythologies and creating something uniquely their own, a testament to the dynamic exchange of ideas and beliefs. Let's explore how Mount Zephon, a site revered for its connection to Baal, the powerful Mesopotamian storm god, transformed into Cassios. As a deity, Baal had extraordinary control over lightning, wind, rain, and fertility, elements that made him a central figure in Canaanite and Phoenician cultures. These ancient maritime nations, known for their seafaring prowess, considered Baal Zephon as their protector of trade routes at sea, making him an invaluable asset to their thriving economies. Mountains like Mount Zephon held deep spiritual significance, acting as cosmic bridges pointing towards the divine realm above. It's no surprise that these natural wonders were often associated with gods, a practice dating back to the earliest days of human spirituality. The seafaring nations who worshiped Baal Zephon as their patron deity played a significant role in shaping the rich tapestry of ancient Mediterranean culture. With their extensive trade networks, they facilitated an era of unprecedented exchange between civilizations. As we trace Baal's journey through time, we witness his influence extending into Egypt, where he seems to have inspired the enigmatic god Set, a symbol of disorder and the untamed forces of nature. Interestingly, this Egyptian figure bears striking similarities with Typhon from Greek mythology, who engaged in a legendary battle for cosmic supremacy against Zeus. This fascinating convergence of mythological figures underscores the dynamic exchange of ideas that characterized the ancient Mediterranean world. However, as we move forward into the 1st century AD, we find ourselves at the crossroads marked by the fall of Cleopatra's Egyptian empire to the rising power of Rome in 30 BC under Emperor Augustus' successor, Hadrian's predecessor. Not Hadrian. Fast-forwarding to the late 1st century AD, we find ourselves at the doorstep of Roman Emperor Hadrian's extraordinary rule from 117–138 AD. At this zenith of imperial power, Rome had firmly entrenched itself as a Mediterranean powerhouse, stretching across Syria and the Levant in the east all the way to Western Europe and the UK. With an insatiable thirst for knowledge and a passion for exploration, the enigmatic Hadrian embarked on numerous journeys throughout his empire, immersing himself in local customs and mythology wherever he roamed. This intellectual curiosity led to a remarkable surge of renovations at temples and religious sites across his dominion, with Greek culture holding a special place in his heart. Many of these ancient structures were meticulously restored under his watchful eye, paying homage to the rich heritage of Greece. Let's dive deeper into one of Hadrian's most fascinating undertakings, the Temple of Zeus Cassios in Pelusium. Unearthed ruins reveal intriguing inscriptions that point to renovations during his reign, a testament to the centuries-long exchange of ideas and traditions across the Mediterranean. This ancient temple now stands as a poignant symbol of how multiple faiths blended seamlessly together under one roof, a phenomenon we see repeated time and again in this period. As archaeologists continue to excavate it, they might just uncover more captivating evidence of the complex network of belief systems these early civilizations developed to make sense of their world. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more thrilling history content, and share your thoughts on the video in the comments below.